Hello there, selectors, and welcome back to the Life First Podcast. We're talking about turns out, the winner of the GP. Hey, Pigeon, what's up, man? How are you? Have you been?
Yeah. How's it going? Yeah, it's everyone. It's Pigeon. I won GP.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Here's your softball question for the night. How's it feel being the reigning champ right now of Wixoss?
Uh, Pretty good. This is I think my third since playing my third like top eight like back to back.
Yeah.
And so it's good to finally win. It was pretty nice there, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it must have been a little hungry, right? After the last two,
yeah.
you got close, but didn't make it. This time though, you got the trophy.
Yeah.
I saw your tweet recently. It's a pretty trophy, man.
It's something. It says champion on it. It doesn't say my name, which is kind of sad, but I wasn't really expecting that. So
I guess I don't know. Maybe they made it prior to you coming. You can always get it like
yeah, they
engraved, right?
probably
Is there
did.
any spot on it you can just like put your own name on there?
Yeah, I think so. That's a good point.
Yeah.
They'll look into that.
Yeah, just add it in there, and post. Or at this point, you could sell it to someone and they could add it in there, so it doesn't have your name on it, so
Ooh,
they can pretend.
true.
Yeah, money making schemes over here at the Late First Podcast. Well, man, let's just dive right into it. So, Pigeon, I'm thrilled to have you on, man. You and I have been back and forth for weeks prior to the podcast or prior to the GP. Doing play testing and figuring out where we were. I mean, you're the one who talked me out of Ange in the first place and onto an Esper matchup.
Yep.
It was some crazy nights on that front. But why did you end up? I think the big question, right? If we're going to start it with a more of one of the more intense questions, is why Madoka over Remember, right? It feels like going in, Remember would be the common choice, but you decided to buck that trend and go to Madoka.
Yeah. First of all, this is pretty much been the deck I've been playing since like probably like a year now.
Yeah, the last GP where you
Pretty much.
top eight
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Probably more than the year then. So I'm definitely very comfortable with this deck. Just the Esper core is so like ridiculously strong. Like this card's still like pretty broken. The Helesta superheroes is like a pretty insane combination. One of my friends, Rue, I also went to the tournament with,
Yep.
is playing like Esper Remember for like the pretty much like 2 months before the event, and just playing that. And I was hearing like a lot of like specifically on like the SAS matchup, like they did not like it all. And like I felt like I didn't do the testing myself, but I know this deck has a very good matchup in the Sosh, which I liked.
Well, that's
And
it's
just
probably
yeah,
pretty good. The finals you did end up playing
yeah,
literally.
yeah. No, I was very excited about that. So, but yeah, and then like a few other stuff like virtual. I didn't get as much virtual testing as I would have liked, but I feel like this does better against like the normal dash or kind of like build that was popular, like that Starfruit and Square played.
Yeah. The
And
Fern
just because like
slash into like the mill you out plan.
yeah, just because like being able to freeze for Chigusa and Remember has like being able to blank the field, which is nice, but it seems less impactful if they like already play OPG and like use all their collabs. Then you're only like really blanking probably like Himawari or like any other like their other shadow guys. That was the theory behind it, at least. I'm like after the event, I'm not totally sure if it panned out the way I would have liked. I think I probably would have liked more testing against the deck, but I mean, it worked out more or less here.
Yeah, totally. I get that, and we
And
definitely
yeah.
talk about what you think the future is of Esper piles or just in general about it a little down the line. In the meantime, for those people who are maybe new to Wecross, right? This is your first experience looking at an Esper deck. I mean, you were talking about the Esper core. Why do you think that the Esper core was so and is currently so strong in Wecross in general?
Esper is pretty much just the premier like control strategy of the game. There is tons of discard to which is to shut off the opponent's options. And like in Wecross, this card is like especially good because being able to discard guards is like gets you like a ton of damage over the course of the game. And while the deck doesn't push as much on-field damage as much as something like just like Orange, for example, would, or like any of the other aggro strategies, because you're discarding, you're doing a lot of damage from discarding their servants out and stopping them from guard. A lot of your damage is a lot safer because bursts, there's a lot less bursts that stop Elrig swinging damage than bursts that stop on field damage. Your game plan is just a lot safer, a lot less likely to get RNG'd over or screwed by just variance. And yeah, so it's a very safe pile and one that I felt like very confident going into the tournament with.
Yeah, I mean, what you said makes sense there. Like, I mean, the Milulun player even was saying in his interview that one of the best cards in the deck was, ironically, Madoka, but the Signy, because it's got the ability to stop the Elrig attacks. And I think the Umir clear deck, or sorry, not Umir clear, Umir also on top 4. The Umir deck also had Fudase's to stop the Elrig damage as well. So interestingly enough, I mean, you're nailing the head here. Like you basically are saying the 1 damage on the field, 1 damage on the Elrig is just a solid and tried and true like strategy. And so it brings us to our next setup, right? So you decided to go with Madoka instead, and part of that was familiarity. Part of that was also you just wanted to have a little bit of a better backbone in terms of card draw or discard, which blue is known for. And is that what you were finding, that by being more of a center blue, it allowed you to play more of those, again, blue cards to help you? You preferred that over the white walling?
Compared to Remember, this deck has a lot more discard, and you might not think so, but like Squid is pretty insane. I have Smash, so I could recurse Squid, and Squid just gets like so much value. And then like in the Esper mirrors, I have Madoka's Enter, which usually I'm going to use for freeze. But even if they somehow like start winning the discard war against me, I can just make them discard too, and like I instantly like kind of flip the tables. So like against like Remember, like I'm always going to be winning card advantage.
Yeah, I think
that makes that matchup. Yeah.
In our Esper versus Esper games, I'd always like end up mid game with even amount of cards as you, and then somehow end game would have like draw 2, manage to draw 1 extra. It wouldn't be the right one. You'd still have like 7 in hand somehow. Don't know how it was purely possible, but I think a lot of that might have came off of the back of like Firefly Squid, right? Like that's a card that doesn't see much play in Wecross, which seems crazy because it's a pretty good card. Can you talk about Firefly Squid's impact on just being like the card that you can use that no one else was able to use?
Just like one of the main ways that you're kind of able to push this card, and just being able to discard a card from random at free is like very strong. +2 card advantage on its own. I can down it, so it's like against like Sash and stuff. Downing level 3 is very strong into like their OPG full moon turns.
And by down it, you mean like just purposefully not paying for Harmony.
Yeah, don't pay Harmony, because of the Harmony mechanic. You can just not pay it.
Yeah. Which is weird, because you think that the Harmony mechanic would be a downside, right, for not paying it. But a lot of the times, especially when you're enter starving or trying to mess with the opponent's board, it's just totally an upside, just being able to have it down and being immune to that type of life burst. Yeah,
it definitely comes up.
All right, squeaking back over to our Elrig deck here. Clearly, we know what Madoka does here. Madoka is I mean, I assume, was there any amount of times that you chose discard your opponent out instead of freeze their Elrig?
I know I said it could come up. I don't think it did the entire day. I think I froze every time, but the fact that the card has it is pretty insane as a line of text.
Yeah, just the option to randomly screw an opponent. Too. And then of course it's got the draw a card, discard a card, which just helps you loop through your deck pretty quickly, find those extra cards that you need. as well as the once per game, which again, you said we talked about this. You just naturally occur card advantage in this deck, so you end up in the scenario where you're able to just bottom deck a Signy pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So question on the freeze Elrig. Um, how did that specifically help? Clearly, it helps in the Anj matchup, the Tama matchup, right? That deprives them of multiple damage outputs in those scenarios where Tama can attack twice. But it's also really good in the Esper matchup, right? Can you talk a little bit about just how that freeze Elrig just turns the game over?
Like I was talking about earlier, just like a lot of Esper's damage comes from being able to discard the guard.
Mm-hmm.
And also Esper mirrors are just generally very slow. And so every turn you don't have a guard in your hand or can't get one, it really stacks up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically you get one turn where you don't have to dig with superheroes, you don't have to dig with Holesta. You can just basically just play your own game. You don't have to worry. Like you just have a line of defense on your card already.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
For free, yeah.
So basically you're not only saying the literal payoff of taking one less damage here, but also the freedom to enact your own game plan and sort of set the pace of the game on that one turn is pretty pivotal as well.
Yeah. Yep. And also like because of how the top 8 worked out, and I play and just Swiss. I played the Umir who got top 4 twice, and that the power of Umir's enter being the ability to like strip any card of your choice from the opponent's hand is a lot less good if you freeze their Elrig first and make it so if they discard the servant, they're not getting damaged through either way.
Yeah.
So it's just got kind of a interesting interaction there, and there's like a lot of other stuff, like just like throughout matchups, and it kind of like illustrates the strength of just being able to freeze the Elrig for free.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Yuki Yuka Pawn and Yuki Yuka Dojan. So those are the same decks that you used last time at the last GP. You also were running that Elrig, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, I was playing this card.
And we were talking often about how and I did the same thing in my Remember deck based on what you were talking as well. How nice it is to just have kind of like a brain dead Elrig that you can just like grow into level 3 very easily.
Yeah.
Sorry, level 2, so that way you can get your level 3/3/1 splits or your 3/2/2 splits. Was that again? It seems like the goal here, right? For that was just to basically have an easy play, no matter what, that can be defensive.
Yeah. So the Pawn Dojan line is, I'd say, pretty underwhelming. The top 3 being able to add like stuff like spells, so drain is very nice, especially against like a lot of these like on Aggro decks that don't play a draw assist. So like being able to early drain is like really good. And then Dojan is just stop and attack for a 0/0 enter, small attacks that sometimes comes up, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, I'm assuming at the GP, did you have literally anyone who didn't want to pay for it and you got to replay it again?
No. I told my opponent in the finals, that they could if they wanted to, but yeah, no one took it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, no one to give you the free birthday party.
Yeah, very sad. But yeah. As you were saying, this being able to grow into hit limit 7 is just very strong. And so for this deck specifically, or before, I was basically playing in like P10, P11 meta, I was playing Smash and Lion instead for the disrespect, the multi-stop. And what happened was that I had a lot of times where I felt like I had to save Smash and stay on limit 6, because if I don't, I get walled out by Exia. And in this set, doing that is especially bad because Chikasa is in the game. And if I freeze their Elric and pass it over to them, I don't feel like I can Smash because they're just going to play Chikasa on me next turn. So I have like 2 turns where I can't play this card this like really good card, and I'm stuck at limit 6 for 2 turns, and I'm just going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to just play Dojan and just kind of keep to my overall game plan is like very useful. And just I'm able to use Smash more at my kind of my leisure, which is very good. And also just having double one stops, just to bring that up, is very strong in this format because a lot of these kind of aggro decks where you need the multi stop the most aren't going to give you the enter for it. And like it's like honest, like specifically, right? Like being able to pay 4 for the OPG is potentially very relevant. And also against Sash, you want to pay the 2 for the attack, at least like attack once through their OPG. So you'll have to pay 2 for that. And so just being able to have a more enter free game plan is pretty much invaluable.
Yeah,
in a deck like this.
I totally agree with you. So it was night and day. I genuinely thought, because you had talked me off off of the 2-3 stuff like that. Like I was like, I don't want to get away from that safety button. But when you talked me off of it and you said like it just helps you have better enter and then that allows you to have more damage prevention later, I didn't really get it until I got used to it. But having the enter to be able to ultra superheroes or to be able to super Celestia Saber, get back the guard that you wouldn't normally have, is actually, and get back the Exia that you might not normally have, is actually just makes up for the lack of damage. Plus you get to interact with your opponent more in general, like whether it's discarding a card with the Madoka dub or, just smashing them a little bit later is great. And I will say one of the weird things about the US meta versus the JP meta is Japan tends to hold off on growing any of their assists if they can help it late. We seem to be very willing to grow at least one assist and get our 3-3-1 split or a 3-2-2 split. But talking about the 3-2-2 split, that was really relevant specifically in this GP, wasn't it?
It definitely comes up for sure. Like, yeah. It's strong against like these kind of like mono white decks. Just because a lot of their removal is very kind of only hits like the tinies, level ones.
Yep.
But I think in this deck specifically, it's like, and remember, and just playing like my testing in that, 2-2-3 is like very good. And here it was slightly less so because I want to play Squid. And if I'm playing Squid, I will probably want to do a card that does damage or an Exia. A lot of my fields are 3-3-1. And I also ended up kind of like, if I don't have to hold the smash, I usually use it pretty early. So then I could do 3-3-2. And then I have that kind of benefit as well. But I'm playing 2-3s.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense to me. And then as far as the main deck goes outside of that, Super Celestia Saber and your and Ultra Superheroes. I mean, there's so much power in those cards. There's really no reason to super go into them other than generally speaking, you feel like you're winning the game every time you play one of those. With Super Celestia though, and we talked about this a little bit, when we were testing. Generally speaking, it seemed like you always wanted to go for like Mew and an Exia with the Super Celestia Saber, right?
Kind of the impact, or like just because how the deck's built, a lot of the black cards are sort of pretty niche in use. Polaris is like usually have enough mill already, unless you're playing against like pretty much exclusively Ninja Sanji. And then a lot of level 2s. There's Animarage, which is nice, but Mew is definitely a powerhouse, and just being able to vanish anything is very strong. I guess like all these aggro decks, you get like a ton of cards, and you're just able to like stock up on level 1s and kind of just kill level 3, which is very good. And just being able to recur level 1 is like actually kind of crazy. Just to get Yuki, to get Monument, it equals like an extra discard through that. It's just very good. Like even if you're not playing it that turn, just being able to hold on to it is like incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I even found in my version where I was running, I was a little more susceptible to discard, being that I was on white rather than the green or the blue. Being able to bring back the Amoeba was actually one of the most powerful things I could do.
Yeah.
having having a guard and like one other card in your hand, and then bringing back an amoeba feels like, oh, I'm pretty set here. I'm guarding next turn.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, you were running amoebas. Clearly, you felt like you had enough just raw card draw in the deck. You were back to your playing right over here instead. How did right fare for you this time around?
So okay. I have my spiel about this card. So before I was testing Amoeba and just the same list, like all my level 1 life bursts were double Tetra, double Haniel, double Amoeba.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few reasons why I took Amoeba out specifically, or for one, it was just that I'm not often losing the discard war at all. The use of Amoeba is pretty like narrow to playing against discard turns 1, turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically because of the bursts, because of how my deck is built, I am on a very small, or at least small for the archetype, count of level 1. So I'm on 12 level 1s that aren't servants.
That's crazy, but
and
you do you.
So yeah, just because of how it is, and playing Amoeba would put me on double or 4 different look at top 3, put 1 onto field life bursts.
Yep.
And the main way this deck loses against aggro is that they open you up very early, open every lane, and then attack, and then get all their damage in. And if you hit one of these top 3 reveal Signy bursts, it's very possible you will not hit a level 1. And that's very bad. And that's basically just like a wasted burst. And I pretty much, in this deck, where I am not playing a super strong draw assist that can get me servants, I'm playing pawn, which cannot get me servants. I feel like I need Haniel, but I don't need Amoeba. I don't need Amoeba at all. So I stuck in the whites, and overall, it's very decent. It's definitely better. I'm definitely glad I played this instead. The burst is very good. It's a very good burst for what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean you were pushing it a bit. You had 2 whites and a Typhon, so you were probably around max that you could get away with that specific type of burst, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also if you want to know how many times I use this card's auto, the actual effect on white,
yeah,
I'll have you know the answer for this event was 0. I use it 0 times. It's definitely not the meta for this type of thing. It's specifically good against like kind of like I found Nova and Deas Adams, and there were 0 Deas Adams, which was very surprising to me. But so yeah, I never used it, not once.
I played Deas Adams. Actually, I did not play Deas Adams. I played an Adams deck though in round 1, but that was the last I saw of Adams.
Yeah. I saw there's like stuff like purely playing it, and like maybe some other stuff, but no Deas is very surprising.
No. But so let's talk about Typhon for a second here. Was Typhon as insanely good for you as it was for me throughout the event?
Yeah, it was pretty good. So I'm just on the 1 because I really like Miracle Draw. I have a bit less leeway with my Exceed.
Yeah.
I pretty much have to choose one or the other until the late game, where I'm able to play both, which is an upside of playing the double 1 stop to get eliminated very quick, and that equals more Exceed. When it's good, it's really good. Like against Ninja Sanji, this card's pretty crazy. I almost feel like I kind of want to dig for this card, but like if it's not like a huge waste of enter.
Yeah, I mean it's also good against like Tama too, because they struggle. Like I mean they can deal with it once. Weirdly enough, I've used it against Sachet as well, and it's like from my version when they bounce it, I'm like, cool, I've still got to remember on the field, or I've still got like an XC on the field, and then when I play it again, I'm able to exceed it again. So it's still annoying even then, you know.
Yeah, like no, it's good. Like it gets around like it attacks over big cards like H2O. Remember, it's a 15k, so they can't smash it. So if
Yeah,
you're playing against like in like the Esper mirror where they're all probably also playing Smash,
yeah.
it's like a very present threat that like you can't save Smash and go down to 0 cloth, or else I'm going to Animirage Typhon you and kill you anyways.
There was a grand total of 2 times that I faced down Smash on turn 2, played Typhon on the open hole that I bursted or something,
Yeah.
and then just
Yeah, no,
15
yeah,
k'd
yeah.
it immediately and went, nah, this damage is
It's
still mine. And the thing with Typhon too is the longer it stays on the board, that's more hand that you end up getting because it's less things you need to replace on the board.
yep. Yeah,
Uh,
it's very flexible card. And like so many like of the top placing Esper lists were like all unanimously ran this card. It's
totally.
just very strong in this
And
meta.
what's funny is independently, like most of those guys didn't talk to each other. They all independently
No,
found
no.
Typhon was pretty good. Moving on to some of the other twos. Deas. Deas also felt like it
No.
overperformed in this meta.
Yes. Yeah, this card's pretty ridiculous. Just being able to kind of rush decks down, like going first, it's like really good because on your second turn when they have 2 Signies, you can just smash their one level 1 and Deus kill the other one, and then you're playing a control deck that's opening 3 on turn 2, and that's really strong.
Yeah, I think we are. That was the thing that we sort of figured out pretty early on in testing
Yeah.
against these aggro decks is we really only get till turn 5, right? If we're lucky to play, so we have to deal the damage in earlier than we normally would with these types of control decks. And Deus was an answer
Mhm.
to that kind of thing. Plus the discard
Yeah.
outlet against the white aggro decks that overfill your hand, and it's a level 2, which means it can't get over pursued or totoed.
Any level 2 you can put in the deck is like defensive on its own, no matter the stat line into the current meta. So I play more level 2s if I felt like I had the space, but I'm already on friggin' 12 non-servant level 1, so
You
I
just
can't
got
really
just
do
got more
that.
level 1s. They're basically like level 2s. And then one of the other things that I've noticed in the deck is you have put more pedal on the acceleration, right? So you've gone down on Gay Bogs, which historically have been a slower card to help you win those grindier matchups. Instead, gone higher on the Muse, for example, but also Valaris helps you get damage done. The Orochimaru helps you get damage done, as well as the ZRs. You've got 2 of them in there. I remember prior to that, some Esper builds were only really running 1. I guess those are the more white-based ones.
Yeah.
But ZR seemed like also a sneaky powerhouse for this type of event.
In Madoka, it's like Squid's like your best friend, but like Zirconium's like your second best friend because you get like at least 1 discard because of the auto with Madoka, right? The draw discard.
Yeah.
So you just have to make them discard 1 more and then it's triggered. And Zirconium discards a card by yourself if you pay the blue enter. So it's like it's pretty much always going to be a minus 8k.
Yeah,
And
and drawing the 1 is not a bad option either in the late game.
yeah. So it makes it so like, and then because it's on attack, it gets through Exia, minus 8k through Exia, very good. And like it makes this deck like surprisingly like very strong against like that kind of stuff as long as like you play your cards right and just play conservative.
So
it's hard. It's pretty hard to wall you out.
With my just moving on to sort of more general stuff here now that we've talked about some more specifics. I guess I should have maybe also noted that there's 3 Exias and that's probably 1 higher than you used to be playing, right?
Or in the Vegas build, I only played 2 and 1, or I mean 2 Exia 1. Remember, I felt like I pretty much had to bump it up to 3, just because like it's very strong in the very strong always into Sash. It's very strong into Anj when they can't afford to bounce it.
Yeah, I think there was one game where I was against Sash and I managed to survive at 0 life cloth for like 2 consecutive turns, 3 turns because I just had X's on the field.
Yeah, I know this. Once the deck's out of gas, this is it's quite the behemoth of a card.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I think 3 was probably the right number.
Totally. Okay, so talking now just main functions of the deck. It felt like, at least with my remember version of this, I was playing basically two different games depending on the matchup. If I was up against the slower matchup, I was playing the gain card advantage throughout the entire game, try to have guards in my hand and do slow, methodical damage. But against the aggro decks, it felt like a different game completely. Like it was like wall up, still put in some mid-range amount of opening, either one to honestly two or even three holes, and get the damage in while simultaneously trying to block off damage with my with either an Exia, my Elrigs, my assist Elrigs, or the guards that I'm trying to draw into. Is that a similar experience that you had with Madoka?
In the mirror, it can definitely play slow. It can play very, very slow. Against Sash, it can also play very, very slow. But against Anj, what I felt or how I played the games against Anj that I played, or I just try to kill it. I just try to kill the deck like really fast. I just try to open through every turn. And that's another thing with Madoka. Like compared to Remember, you have the OPG. So that's an extra hole. And it clears anything, which is like even level 3. So very good. And just like because being able to like deal as much damage as like possible is so like three swings, one Elrig swing, and then potentially the mill from superheroes is a lot of damage because of how the deck works. And like Kalesta itself equals a lot of damage, smashes a free hole. Like for like a solid like turn or two after 3, you pretty much have like you could just kind of go at it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did a lot. And like against like Anj, like Exia is good, but like if they feel like they're in the position where they can like kind of like they're not threatened, then they can kind of just like kill you. They can just bounce the Exia.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times I just against aggro and stuff like that, I just tried to rush them down. That's also what I did against the Milliloon in my round 7.
Mm-hmm.
Was I was like, all right, he's not on white. He's not playing any sort of Exia. He's playing double removal assists. So I have a slight damage differential. I think I could just beat him in the race, and that's what happened that game.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying this deck does feel like it has an acceleration pedal. You can gun it if you need to, but you also can pull back in order to do safer, more methodical damage and gain card advantage should you need to.
Yeah, like this deck is like surprisingly like very aggressive, or it has the means of being very, very aggressive.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I kind of liked about it. I remember one time, even in the GP, one of my matches, the opponent looked at me. They were playing virtuals, and they looked at me and they saw that I had like 4 life cloth and they had 1 life cloth, and they were like, "Wait, aren't I the aggro deck?" And I was like, "Not this time." Round 1 through 7, right? What were you mostly playing against? Aggro, control, mid range? Like what kind of decks were you mostly fighting through?
I could just say my pairing. So Swiss round 1 Anj, round 2 Maho Maho Virtual, round 3 I think that should be against Tiffany on Tama, and then round 4 Umer, round 5 on round 6 Harana, round 7 Lin. So kind of like a wide spread, but it wasn't until my first round of top 8 that I played against Remember.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like outside of the Umer, like mid range to aggro was mostly what I played against.
Yeah, mostly aggressive, and then suddenly, hey, top 8, you basically played slow decks the whole way through, right? Wait, did you play? You played Milliloon in the top 8, right?
I played Milliloon. Oh no, round 7 was Milliloon. Right. I didn't play Milliloon top 8. I played Remember, Umer again, and then Sash in finals.
Yeah, so you had to pull the acceleration way back.
Yeah, like my game in the quarterfinals was extremely close. I played real bad at the start. I missed grow. I did a lot of other silly stuff, but I was slowly able to climb back in. I won off a crazy stint, and like, and then like the first thing I heard was like, I think it was like either you or Bubble Person or someone else who like, yo, all the Andras just got kicked out too, the Hirana as well.
Yeah,
I was like, oh shit, let's go.
Now you're in your quarter game final where you played against Kevin, who's a great player, all tears.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you like you because you're so great at knowing what's in your cloth. Like by turn like 5, you're like, cool, I know every card and their placement in my deck, you know. Um, and you just snapped the Haniel, paid the 1, did the 3, pulled the guard out,
Yeah.
and then showed it. And it was like it was one of the most quick, just like, oh, that momentum
Yeah.
swung.
Because like I was thinking it the entire time because I was like, okay, if he opens 3, I have 1 cloth. I am super dead. If he opens 2, I'm about to cook this man. And because I didn't have the servant in hand, but I played superheroes and drew like 2 cards afterwards. So I was like, if I'm in the position to do this, it'll probably work out.
Clearly.
So and I was very lucky, and he didn't draw that out. But yeah,
yeah, that was a pretty cool game to watch. And then your other 2 were great to watch as well.
Yeah.
The Sachet one was nerve-wracking to watch though. In the finals.
Yeah.
I know how badly you really wanted it, and like, man, you were going on to what round? All right, so 8, 9, so that was 10, round 10, right? Like, the mental drain has to be real by that point.
Yeah. It was a slog, I'd say. I play a lot with the guy who got second place as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I think that definitely helped with like kind of nerves. And overall, I think I played that game pretty good. I like in the quarterfinals game against all tiers. I was like, because like we haven't played before, and like it was the beginning of like top 8. That's when I lost Shimizuku at the last kind of at Vegas.
Yeah.
So like I was pretty nervous for that one, but like
PTSD run through your head again.
Yeah. Yeah, after winning that, and then like after semis, and then like kind of playing like against a person I know against in a matchup I'm very comfortable with. Little shaky in certain rounds before that, but I had a good finish.
Yeah. I mean, clearly you had a good finish. You got first.
Yeah.
You can do a better finish than that. I guess move on to national or like what worlds or something.
Yeah, we cross worlds.
Yeah.
Go
fight Pegasus or whatever. The question that I've been burning and waiting to talk to you about for this interview was I've heard rumors that you weren't super at the end of your GP run. You weren't super sold on the deck you took to finals.
I mean, it's like it's a really weird meta. I felt like in the last kind of like national-ish events that I played, like the Vegas and the October ceremony way back like 2 years ago, like I was very like confident in my deck choice. In October, like Tamago felt like very confidently like the best deck. In Las Vegas, Madoka, I felt very confident was like best bet deck.
100%. 100%. At the end of that event, I looked at your deck list, I talked to you, and I was like, I took the wrong deck to the GP. You found absolutely the right one.
Yeah. So like, I felt very good going into those. Like in the Vegas one, I pretty much like knew my deck from like 3 months ago, or like before. Like probably even more before that, because it was just like they're just so solid. Like even like this, like the second most like scary deck in like Tama Clear, like that also just like kind of fell apart to the build I was playing. But for this one, I pretty much decided on like I played a lot of decks, I played a lot of Anj. I settled on Madoka like maybe 2 weeks before. I was always playing it, but like just I didn't like fully settle until that point.
Yeah, I was shook when you decided to come off Anj, man. I was like, hold up, hold up. We were put a lot of
Yeah.
effort in this Anj deck we built.
Yeah, like I would have loved to play like the new Spice, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't. I felt like this was a more consistent game plan. And after the event, it's like I think it was. I think it was a good pick. I do think this was a good pick. I think Esper was definitely. It was either this or Remember, right? And
Yeah.
like, I still feel like this pretty much kind of knocks through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh except Anj, but Anj is a weird deck. I feel like I don't know a single deck that can like consistently beat Anj. That isn't like doesn't completely lose to everything else.
Yeah,
So I feel like yeah, it's strange. It's a very frustrating deck to play against and to play as because like sometimes you just die. And like you don't really have too much agency around it. Yeah, I don't think like compared to the other metas I played before, I don't think there was like a as clean of an answer of like what to play. I don't think there is an answer like that even exists
mm-hmm.
after playing this format so much. So I think this is fine. This is yeah. Overall, I don't think I could have made much of a better pick. It just kind of yeah. It is what it is basically.
I agree with you. And by the time this episode comes out, I think my tier lists have come up. I have um Madoka and Remember ahead of Anj and the rest of the meta. Because I do agree.
Yeah.
I think it's questionable whether or not you want to be on Madoka or you want to be on Remember. Weirdly enough, I felt really confident with Remember against specifically Anj. But I felt bad, like worse against the Esper matchups, right? And so that's the trade off there. Was
Yeah.
It did feel like I gave up a little bit on the counter control deck to solidify myself against these white aggro decks.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is like so I to the event I brought kind of like the Jisanji like Toko Lise list that I was expecting to be most popular, which pretty much like so many other people played it.
Mm-hmm.
And but what ended up actually happening was I played the deck against a lot of people and like gave them matchup knowledge, but like I didn't actually play much against it myself. And I think that would have helped because I don't like I know I said my game plan against the deck, but I don't know how much it like how consistent it is. And like I feel like if I had a few more reps, I would have been like a bit more confident going into this.
Yeah.
And like be able to give you a more better idea of how the deck fares into Anj, other than like me being like, oh, I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared against it. But yeah, so
yeah, I found that like basically background. It was Esper in general was a pretty good matchup into Anj. You just got to burst either on the first two attacks or the next two attacks. You know, as long as you get one of those bursts, you're good in this game. You don't get any of those bursts, you lose that game.
You definitely gotta hit the bursts.
Yeah.
Definitely the first step. Yeah.
So let's talk next steps. We know that this is a super functional deck for this meta, but Dissona's right around the corner, and so is a color break rule potentially right around the corner. Mm-hmm. Would you be looking to, switch to a different Dissona center at this point, or would you be looking to keep pushing forward sort of with this Esper core that's already presented itself as being pretty strong?
It's hard for me to say. I've played some P12, but I haven't played like too much. Mm-hmm. I don't totally know how this build stacks up. I'm definitely going to try Miko when she comes out. I'll probably try like Hanayo Yuki too. Into P12, this might be fine. There might be like some assist changes you could do, like now that color rolls and stuff. There's the new double color piece, which is pretty good. And being able to play Madoka with a blue assist is something I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I can't say for sure. I don't like last interview. I was like, yeah, I'm playing Remember for sure. And it didn't really scope out that way. So I don't want to kind of date myself like last time.
Yeah. I think, I think there is something to be said about these Esper
Oh,
piles, like just being weirdly like stronger than you'd think, and like the Desona stuff is very strong. I'm not going to undersell it, but this core itself has also just proven to be really resilient, regardless. So there might be
yeah.
more legs and more wiggle room on this type of build than you'd expect going
Oh,
into
yeah.
a Desona meta.
Yep. It's quite possible. I've been playing like, the same main deck for like a year or two now. So
uh, well, man, it was really great getting to interview you again, and also just testing with you in general. So I want to commend you for first place. Congrats again.
thank you.
You are the U.S. champion. You have the
Mm.
rights. Well, dude, it was great talking to you again. And do you have any shout outs that you wanna give before this is all wrapped up and gone?
Uh, yes, absolutely. So shout out to everyone from my locals. Shout out to everyone that I play online. I play a lot of people online. I play you online. It was great being able to kind of test the meta with you.
Hey, man.
Yeah, shout out to Tommy. Few more. Shout outs Denny's. Shout outs.
Burger Den.
Yeah. Shout out Nicole for not beating me up in the parking lot for leaking her list to Tiffany. Yeah, I think that's about it. This recross is awesome. It was great being able to kind of talk with all the community. Like I talked a lot to Starfruit too, and he was really cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just yeah, everyone was really awesome. I don't know what to say.
All right, man. Well, it was great having you again. And I'm gonna do the sign off. So I hope everyone out there uses this Madoka list, checks it out, tries it out their locals, reps it, becomes champion with it, and then may you always flip a life burst. See you guys.